Okay, so the microphone really messed up this time, and all I got was this annoying screaming sound while I was recording. I didn't even notice it because whenever I record anything on this PC now, I use OBS, so I can't really tell what's going on when in terms of recording with a microphone, unlike with other programs. So I'm just going to give you a shortened version of what was 3 hours of me playing this game. So since I declared, so before in the previous part we dealt with Graff and his other dealt with Graff and Clay, which I basically let Clay solve the puzzle, which I guess somehow yields me back yields me a better grade. I don't know. Either way, either way, I dealt with either way we dealt with that. We flash back to here. The game now. We already declared that that Dr. Mink couldn't have killed his friend, couldn't have killed his colleague. And now we have to go hunting for more clues, which basically meant giving everything another once over. Talking to everybody here once over again, and just going over all the clues with a fine-tooth comb. So much so that I had to do this at least 3 to 4 times before I found anything, and I even had to use at least at up to about 10 hints, I believe, just to find small details that I missed. Oh God, it took forever to go through it all. Doc, Dr. Mink eventually allows us to use his tablet, which essentially gives us a little bit of insight as to some of the clues that we ended up picking up, such as a flower, such as the nanobots, such as the ketchup, and some certain other clues. We end up finding that our dead doctor here took some medication that actually is crucial to this case. But all in all, I had already figured out that it was the robot. I already figured out that it was the robot somehow. But we just needed to find the actual evidence. You know, we had to CSI everything. So that's why I had to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, and why this part ended up taking 3 hours. Oh my God, I should have just hinted my way through it, but it's better this way. I still ended up using a lot of hints anyway. This eventually leads us to where Mr. Guard here gives us a little program sheet as to when everybody entered and exited rooms. It has a complete list as to when everyone was there and what exact times everything happened, which further corroborates the theory that the robot did it by pushing our dead doctor through the vent. But we still didn't have enough hard evidence to actually prove that the robot did it, and obviously the guard is hiding something from us, so we needed to question him. At this point, the game crashed in a rather hilarious way. I couldn't redo the crash, but I'll just show you exactly what happened, and I'll edit out the screaming sound from my microphone.
438. Besides, the arrow indicates an exit, not an entrance. You owe me an explanation.
Yeah, the game crashed, and when I tried to reboot the game again, it just wouldn't boot back up. So I had to restart my entire computer. I don't know what happened, but I was a little bit frustrated at this point. Good thing that the autosave kicked in before I started that investigation, so I didn't miss too much or have to redo too much. Alright. At this point, everything started getting rather incredibly frustrating because there were certain clues that went together, but Brok kept going, "Oh no, I can't show that yet. I have to show this other stuff first." Which I understand, but at the same time, I was getting rather fed up with with the game having crashed and having to go over this entire all four screens with a fine tooth comb just to find certain small things I missed. This was getting a bit irritating for me, and I was ready for it to be over. Basically every time I found a hint, everything seemed to point to either the guard or Dr. Mink. Dr. Huh, Dr. Hush, the only other theory, excuse me. The only way I could have the game eventually starts asking, who do I pin the blame on instead if it wasn't Dr. Mink? It gives you the choices of everybody in the room except for Brok, obviously. And obviously there's no way Ott could have done it because he's with me. There's no way, and we already concluded that the guard couldn't have done it because the guard was not watching for that moment when Dr. Hush died. And we cleared Dr. Mink. Putting Dr. Mink back into suspicion would go against everything. So it had to be the robot somehow. And we spent forever I spent forever putting together clues that proved that the robot did it. Which is essentially remember in the last part 2 weeks ago, the robot does mention that he can stretch his arms out. He can stretch his arms out and carry things or grab things as he wishes. But the robot sat there and tried to disprove our theory. Going left and right, disproving our theory that, oh, he can't do it because the ceiling is, for one, he was like, the ceiling is too tall. Or, oh, well, Dr. Mink walked over into the other room. But we proved that the robot actually set up everything. For one, he set up a fake recording of Dr. Hush's voice saying that he's in the bathroom, which tries to disprove our theory. He also said that Dr. Mink essentially tried to give him poisoned coffee, which is essentially how Dr. Hush died. So yeah, he wasn't hit in the head, but actually he was poisoned. But things didn't play out the way things didn't exactly play out, because we eventually proved that due to the fact that there was a bench in Dr. Hush's room that allows the robot to stretch his arms far enough to grab Dr. Hush and push him through the ventilation system, that's how the robot did it. But it still wasn't enough. The robot indicated that Dr. Hush essentially would not. That Dr. Hush should have fallen in a certain spot, but instead he was moved, which that actually leads us to our last hint, and the actual revelation of this mystery.
Can't let that wacky bag of metal win. What's the explanation for Dr. Hush's position in the room? No way. It can't be. Have we been mistaken this whole time?
Mr. Brok? Hey! What are you doing, man?
Stop! Stop! Rocky hurt! Daddy!
That's awful. I can't watch this.
Huh? What's going on?
What the? Dr. Hush! You're alive?
Daddy! No! expression. Not dead, Daddy.
Yeah, this basically turned into what I could more or less describe as a Phoenix Wright moment. The the doctor actually took some medicine beforehand, which apparently is some sort of health enhancer or whatever that basically enhances your heart, that basically enhances failing organs such as the heart and whatnot. So instead of the poison actually killing Dr. Hush, it only actually rendered him unconscious to the point that any heart rate monitors wouldn't be able to detect anything. This actually pissed off the robot so much, and we ended up questioning the robot as to why everything happened, and the robot was just flat out pissed. Because we ended up working with a robotic AI that the robot was like, "Oh, well, it's like, oh, I hate you. He kept going, I hate you. You keep telling me to do all this crap. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of cleaning. I'm sick of picking up stuff for you. I'm sick of doing all this crap." And he just never spoke up, and instead decided to plot murder and actually try and frame someone else for it. Which that's actually going quite far. Anyway, we end up in a 2-stage boss fight. I'm not going to skip the first one because the first one is so fun. I'm just gonna show you and put some music to it.
Dark lasers!
I've set the emergency plan. You won't access the controls.
Rubbish guard! Let me out!
You won't go nowhere.
Nothing wrong. Daddy is alive.
Only by chance. And stop calling him Daddy. You're nothing more than a defective AI in a metal scrap. Now, let me switch you on. Real fast.
I never take orders from a petty human. I'm perfect. The only defective one in this room is you, human scum. I got new orders from my new daddy. When I'm out, he'll take care of me.
What? Who?
It's quite funny, actually. You see? No, I promise. You'll have to figure it out by yourself. A shame, really, because you never will.
Stop this nonsense. This is my last warning. Switch off, or else.
Save your breath. You'll never get me.
Yeah, I need to explore this game's tech a bit. I didn't know I could juggle that. I didn't know I could juggle enemies that crazy. In fact, I thought it was impossible to juggle enemies like that.
Yes.
Anyway, the robot escapes and we have to chase it on a speed bike and run it over. That actually was kind of hard because there's nothing that stops me from falling off the stage. And I kept falling off the stage to the point where I died. I'll add some music to this too. Brock brings back the robot in pieces, and Wes is pissed because we did all that and apparently scared non-existing traffic and other people in the city with our actions over a small, apparently harmless robot. This this pisses off Wes. This pisses off Brock. Wes tells Ott never to go near Brock again, and that pretty much ends that. But the more important part is that Brock finally checks his phone and finds that Graff has been texting him that he's literally dying. So we rush back and we go to save Graff, and Graff gets pissed that we saved. Gets pissed because, well, we didn't answer our phone, but we at least saved his life. And we have a nice father-son bonding moment. Well, Brock-Graff bonding moment. And I pretty much ended the part there. I guess I could redo it all, but at the same time, I don't know. This was literally 3 hours of content, and I just condensed it into like 20 minutes. I'm trying to explain everything. We'll see.